I heard the voice of the Lord saying,
Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?
Then said I, Here am I, send me. And he said,
Go! And you tell this people, hear ye indeed,
but understand not, and see ye indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart. Also I heard the voice of the Lord say,
Oh, yes. Good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. We're continuing 2 Corinthians chapter 12. We're almost at the end here. And, as you recall, he was talking about the way they had come to Corinth and the way they had behaved among them. Specifically, the way they did not take advantage of them in terms of finance. You know, Paul wasn't out there to fleece them. He said, I don't desire yours, I desire you. He wanted to make the most of them, which to him did not mean how much money can I get out of them, but how, what quality of Christian believer might I inspire in these people? Or how might I edify them and build them? Because when you read Paul's letter, you see he has, I'm going to use the word pride in the sense that we talk about it like this, because sometimes I get a little confused, and I don't know if pride is the right word. Well, when I was a kid, my dad was always like, pride bad, because he was a new believer, and, pride's bad, pride's sin, right? And so I was always like confused when they'd say, well, take pride in your work. And what they meant was do a good job. You know what I mean? They didn't mean like, look what I did. It's like, or maybe they did, I don't know. But, being inflated about, I'm so great. I colored in this dinosaur. You know what I mean? What they meant more was care about what you do. So like when you color in your dinosaur, stain the lines and make the colors make sense. I don't know. It's like instead of just being like, who cares? Well, that's all Paul was about the Christians he was teaching. He wanted them to be all colored in within the lines. Great, there's a fly in here. Excellent. And he wanted them, so when he built people up, he took care and he took pleasure in his labor, in that he wished it to be effectual, that kind of pride. He probably likes, I'm going to do a good job. This thing's going to be perfect. When you build, like, you ever build something out of wood or something, you want it to be just so. And why? It function, look, I've built a lot of things very ad hoc just for that purpose, and it didn't matter if they were perfect or not. It didn't even matter if they were level. Because I just needed to throw something together. And, and sometimes that's the case. You just throw it together. But some things need to be done with precision, and sometimes they don't need to be done with precision, but you do it anyways. Because maybe you say within yourself, I'm going to do a good job. It's like, so it's the same spirit that says, I want to be the best servant of the Lord I can be. Regardless of, well, it's no big deal what I'm doing. You want to do a good job. Because he that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in that which is much. And what that means, and I don't think it's worth repeating. I know I repeat myself, but hey, it's like, I got to remind myself. It means that, just because you are, just because someone tells the truth in a small thing doesn't mean they're always going to tell the truth necessarily, or they won't tell a big lie. But someone who lies all the time over every little thing is guaranteed to lie over the big things. Oh, no, not now. Not now. Or at least let me put it this way. No one's going to believe you. You know? And someone who's like precise and takes care in every little detail of things, you're going to expect, like, well, if I give them more responsibility, they'll probably bring that same attention to detail. You don't think suddenly, like, well, you know, he did such a, you know, we give him a small responsibility and he just did such a conscientious and detailed job. I would expect that if we give him more responsibility, he'll bring that same attitude to the new job. And that's what that means. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in that which is greater. And, you know, and if you're sloppy at doing little things, people are going to say, like, he can barely handle what he's doing. Why give him more responsibility? He'll probably just do that just as sloppy, and that happens to be, by measure, just that much more important. So Paul always took that kind of attitude towards the things he did with people. He was building them up, and he took care. And if he was covetous of anything or proud of anything, it was to do a good job in his, in building them up. They do all things for your edifying. Verse 20 is where we left off. For I fear, lest when I come, I shall not find you such as I would, and that I shall be found unto you such as ye would not. I'm afraid I'm going to find you in a state that I would rather not find you in. This is not good. And he's saying this all because I think this goes way back to the previous chapter when he was talking about, I fear lest by any means, as a serpent beguiled Eve. This is another one of the things he fears, because it doesn't really seem particularly connected. It is connected in that he's saying he has a great care for them. Not for their money, but for how they prosper in the gospel. So he's saying, well, I'm afraid that when I come, I'm going to find you in a state I would not find you in. I would prefer to find you otherwise. And I shall be found unto you, meaning I will be in my behavior towards you, such as you would not. I'm going to be in a way you would prefer I not be. It's like coming home and let's say you find your kids, and I've never done this, find them all misbehaving. They are such as you would not, and they will find you to be such as they would not. And what he has in mind is lest there be debates, envyings, wraths, strifes, backbitings, whisperings, swellings, tumults. What's swellings all about? Swellings? Seems like out of place, doesn't it? Like, oh, you've got a swelling there. Swellings. Fusiosis. A puffing up. Okay. So he must mean this in a spiritual sense or in a intellectual, not that like, oh man, does he mean people growing overweight? Doubt it. I think he means swelling up with pride, making more of themselves than they are, thinking they're highfalutin and important. What highfalutin really means. As far as I don't know where it comes from. Highfalutin, blah, blah, blah. All right, debates. And again, I always was like, when I would read the New Testament, I would be like, debates? What's wrong with debates? Well, again, like a lot of things, it's like an organized, what we call debate, where we have two people discussing something they disagree about. And they have that's like not what Paul has in mind, I think. You know what I mean? It's all right to have because Christians got to go out and defend the faith sometimes. You earnestly contend for the faith, as Paul says. Contend means literally wrestle for the faith. On behalf of the faith, I go forth to fight for the truth by speaking words. Paul's letter to the Corinthians is a form of fight. And he's in a debate with some men who have slandered him and called his virtues vices. So that kind of making a defense, making a strong argument is not what is meant by debate, but it means like strife between brothers, argument kind of thing, where you're having maybe not discussing some great issue, or even if you do, let's say two brothers disagree on some political thing, some foreign policy point. Or I'm trying to think of something that actually would be really neutral, where it's like you could toss a coin. Is there anything left like that? Whether something like tariffs, whether they can be good or bad, or they have uses or whatever. Somebody thinks like, no, they're always bad. Other guy says, well, they can be good. And so they have a civil discussion about it. That's not that we might call that a debate, but that's like calling it a fight. It's not really a fight. It's not really a debate in terms of strife, though there's a striving going on, right? But, of course, this means disorganized, emotional, unproductive debate. And you can tell when debate is sin because of the emotions that are going through people. When they're getting all freaked out. If they can't maintain their composure, it's not a healthy debate. If one person's got their composure and the other one doesn't, it's still not a healthy debate. You know what I mean? A long time ago, I don't know. I don't know sometimes, because I've had a lot of online discussions with people. You could call debates. And they were over false doctrine. I mean, I can't just be like, oh, false doctrine, that's fine. And we're not supposed to roll over for that. But on the other hand, when people are getting upset and freaking out and starting to behave themselves in an unacceptable way, I had one guy running to Google to report me because of things I said about the Shepherd's Chapel. He said he told them that I was saying things about his family, and that I was doing so publicly and blah blah. And he went and just lied to Google, and for a while my entire website was removed from their search engine. It was down on the 5th page when you search for oracles of God. That's what I had to appeal that. And it's funny because I wanted to appeal it and people were like, oh, you're just not happy with your search results. It's like, no. I'm back on, or I don't know where I haven't searched the website in a while, but it's back in the top 10, 15 results. I mean, it's not like anyways, I mean, it's my brand. So it has been for 20 years. Anyways, but I think back, I'm like, I probably shouldn't have made him so mad that he was then going to do it. I mean, some people are going to get mad over the least thing. But I still, in the midst, even when someone else does me wrong, I still examine myself and say, could I have handled that better? And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't need to blame yourself necessarily. When someone does something, when you haven't done anything wrong, but they do wrong, you can look at your behavior and examine it and say, did I do something, was there a way I could have done that more perfectly that maybe would not have provoked them? Just a little tweak there to make that not so offensive. Did it have to be that offensive? Did I have to offend him so deeply? Was it the truth that offended him, or was it my snarky attitude? You know what I mean? Did I grind his face into it a little too much? you know? It's very tempting sometimes. Man, when people are mean and nasty and stuff, you want to get them on some point and then just take their faces and grind it right into that point. Humiliate them. I mean, it's like there have been times I wanted to say a lot of things. You know, like I said, I've said this many times. Maybe I haven't said it in the Bible studies much, but like I would write things and then I would delete them because I was like, I can't say that. You know, that's good. That's a rule I have about most Facebook posts. Like whatever you're thinking on Facebook, write it, type it out, and then delete it, and then go do something else. That's how you. That's generally. I mean, I don't post very frequently. In fact, it's mostly a vehicle to share my Bible studies that it always was, and have a presence where people, if they wanted to make a point of contact, they could. I wanted to make sure there was a possibility, and so I'm there, but I don't go there very often. I used to quite a bit, but no. Debates, envyings, wraths, getting angry with each other, strifes. Interesting is debates, the Greek word was defined as strife, I believe. Yeah. Eris, strife. Though, and this word strife, the second word, and I'm looking at Bible Hub, the King James, the version with the numbers, with the Strong's numbers embedded in the text. How fun is that? I'm looking at strifes, and it says heretofore. Let's look at it. It's got a pronunciation right there. Erythia, whatever. No, it's erythia, whatever. It looks like it's derived from the same root of eris, but maybe I'm wrong. It just starts with the same letters. But here it says rivalry, hence ambition. It's a little bit different, right? Debates is more of like a strife, a striving between brothers. This word strifes is more like factional, kind of politicking, intrigue, people trying to advance themselves, you know, showing that ambition of like, I want to be in charge of things here. I want to rise and become an important guy at this church, you know. It's more, you know, if you want to be important, you know, if you want to, I have ambition, by the way, I do. I want to be something in God's kingdom. I want to be whatever, you know. So I want to rise. I don't want to be at the bottom, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be like, oh, he got in by the skin of his teeth. Yeah, it was, or whatever. You know, just barely slid into heaven. Well, you know, you just made it. Though with the Lord, you know, we're all making it on grace, so there's really no thing. But there is a lot of scripture having to do with, like, you know, you've been faithful with a few things, I will make you ruler over much, etc. So, you know, I want to, you know, I mean, obviously I wouldn't teach every day if it wasn't something I felt strongly about and that I wanted to commit myself to. And in that there is ambition. Like, but the thing is, it's like, I want to rise not in the sight of men because I believe in God. Because I genuinely believe in this. I know that the way you get a advancement, what is it? When you get a promotion. Like if you're working at a place, you get a promotion how? What? By making your inferiors think you're great, or the people who work under you. Let's say you're a bottom level manager at some large organization. You got a few people under you, whatever, you know, you're responsible for them. You're responsible for training new trainees. You know what I mean? And they don't give you more than a couple. And you're responsible for training them. If you want to be promoted, What do you do? Make them think you're really important and you ought to be higher in the organization. Make them and say, hey, just remember to tell everyone that I ought to be higher in the organization. No, that's not how it works. What you do is you do the best job you can do and you impress your superior. And the superior, in the kingdom of God, every man's immediate superior is God himself. Though we may answer to each other on some level, the one who chooses those who rise ultimately is going to be God. I mean, I guess, choose certain faithful men from among you. But if the church is choosing people, it ought to be choosing them on the same basis that God would, which is that you're doing a good job. Just conscientiously doing a good job, like that you're creating good outcomes for people. So if you have ambition, the way to deal with that is to do the best you can to impress the Lord and those who have the Lord's standards. You know what I mean? It's like if you want to rise, the thing is, a lot of times churches, they don't employ this at all. The way to rise in the church is to, first of all, go to school to become a minister. Then they will ordain you, and then you get bumped right into like the important column. Then you'll be measured based on, can you amass followers? Can you get people in the church and keep them there? How big a church can you build with your ministry? That's what ambition, it's like, ambition is how many trainees can you stuff into the room until you need a bigger room, And it doesn't really matter how good a job you do training them. It's just how many people can you get? As far as that's how people look at success. Well, and a lot of people, that's how their ambition works. Their ambition works, it's like, well, I want more trainees. They're not really thinking, I want to get into upper management. They mistakenly think that because they have more trainees, they're in upper management. But they've moved on. And sometimes they're not, it's like, you're not even really working for us anymore. Because your trainees suck. They can't do it. They can't tie their shoes. They're so inept. They have no use to the business, to the organization. You bring up useless trainees. They serve you and not our God. So, you're working independently now. The thing is, like, my ministry is part of the church. People say, oh, lone wolf and that kind of stuff. It's like, no. I'm one under authority. Strifes, so ambition. But ambition in the negative sense, yeah. I want people to think I'm great. I want people to think I'm something. Ambition among men. But conflating that with God's kingdom. So it's basically using God's kingdom to advance yourself among men and to get yourself earthly gains. Whisperings. I'm assuming that's going to be just whisperings. I just want to check it out. Yeah. People speaking quietly to it. It's like little secrets between people. Oh, did you know so-and-so is this? It's not just gossip, but also the tendency to talk about people negatively behind their back. I remember when I was part of a church, when I first came, there was immediately whisperings. Some people, didn't like me. And so they whispered to their friends about me. Negative things. As at one point I was criticized. Everyone always in church when they are. It was a Pentecostal church, and I'd never been part of such a thing. I'd always been very reserved in the way I worshipped God. I like to sing, but I would just stand there and sing. But, there's always this thing where people put their hands up in front of them and, like, they do that thing. And everyone was doing that. And I was just like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to put my hands, and I put them reversed like this, up in the air. And to me, it was like, I thought I was sort of like trying to, it's like catch the baby position. It's like, Lord, bless me. Not like, I want to, like, I don't know. And there's nothing wrong with whatever you're doing. But someone took offense with that. They said, it's like devilish. He's reversed. His hands are backwards. It's like an upside down cross or a whatever. It's like this all superstition. And I never imagined someone would even think that. Oh, did you see the way his hands were? His hands were backwards. I think that's got to be a sign that he's of the devil. Okay. Something I never considered. All right. Swell, into my friend, the pastor's credit, he was like, get out of here. It's nonsense. And, it's interesting, the things people will whisper about you. And I most of the time, like that story, I thought was hilarious. And I still do. It's a hilarious story. My attitude is, I don't get offended at these things. Like, I heard from a friend that, the ladies at the wrestling club think that I've never changed a diaper. All those kids, and he's never changed a diaper. And I don't know where they get their information. It's not true, But what I said, what someone must have overheard me saying at some point, and it got corrupted, was that, like, with the earlier kids, I changed more diapers. And as Katie and I continued being married, we became more specialized. And in the last kid, I only changed a few diapers on my 8th child. I probably changed diapers maybe 8 times. And if you know anything about children, they get hundreds of diapers. I mean, I bought a lot of diapers, I'll tell you that. And apparently this got, but early on I changed a number of diapers. I didn't change as many as my wife, but she was taking care of the baby and I was working, And then my friend, his clever comeback was, well, maybe she's never unclogged the toilet, which is also true. There's a lot. I mean, it's like there's a division of labor, but they turn it into like, as though it's like, I wouldn't even do it once. Like there was some principle on which I said, I will not touch a diaper. Because I guess I am a chauvinist. It seems like no matter where I go, I get pinned as a chauvinist. Whatever that means. As it's really, I think people really want to think I'm a big jerk. And I genuinely get delighted when I hear that. For some reason, I think it's funny. Because to me, it's like, I don't know. I learned a long time ago to not care so much what people thought about me. It only takes a few humiliations for you to stop caring. I'll tell you that. Humiliate yourself enough, and you will learn not to care when they laugh and mock. A lot of times people's pride is built up in fear. Fear of being mocked, fear of being laughed at. And God knows I don't like it sometimes, when it's unexpected. When it's true. Or when it's a misunderstanding. When it's something I care about, When it's something goofy like that, though, yeah. What was the last word? Oh, swellings we discussed. Tumults. People swelled up with all kinds of things. What is tumults? Sounds obvious, right? But what does it mean? Akatastasia. Like apostasia is falling away. And this means instability. Actually, apostasia, we say it means falling away, but literally means standing off. And akatastasia means no I don't know. There's a prefix. Means no. Kata means something like, I thought, through or something like that. Or thorough. What does it mean? Catastrophe. There's a lot of kata words out there. But whatever. It means instability, which is a good thing. When things are, chaotic, unstable. He's like, I don't want to find that when I come. Unless when I come again, my God will humble me among you, and that I shall bewail many which have sinned already. How would Paul be humbled by all their sins? Well, because he was the one who taught them. He's on his way to visit them a third time. First time he visited, then he wrote First Corinthians. I think he might have visited twice, then wrote First Corinthians. And Second Corinthians seems to be written without a visit in between, because he's only heard report of what has been the results of his letter. And he's thinking he's going to come there and God's going to humble me and think like, I didn't do such a, I thought I did a great job. I boasted about the Corinthians. They were my boasting. But I'm afraid when I come, I might have to bewail many which have already sinned. Oh God, what's sins? Who bewails sin? Come on. We all sin. You go to church on Sunday, say, who's sinned? Everyone's going to raise their hand. Why would Paul bewail such things? It's just the course of nature. It's just totally normal for the church to be filled with sin. That's what church is. It's just a bunch of sinners who are saved. Right? And so why would there be any expectation to find the church in any other state than that which is filled with sin and rife with iniquity? And that's what Paul should expect. That's what every pastor in America expects. That's what every pastor in America has built up. Maybe not every single pastor, but I mean that in a hyperbolic sense. That it is rampant. Like I said, we have all these conservative churches. Oh, homosexuality. And now it's legalized. And now it's, I was warning about this years ago. They pushed too hard against it. And now the pushing back has come. Where you get, they want to cram it down your throat now. Congratulations. You tried to cram your morality down their throat. Now they want to have their revenge. And it's not good. And I'm sure not going to take it. As far as nobody's going to force me to say things I don't want to say. And nobody's going to force me to accept things I don't accept. I was if they were saying well, you got to marry them. And it's like, well, no, I don't have to marry them. I can go to jail, can't I? Thank you. Take that instead. But here's the thing. But they got all up in they get all, this is such a horrible thing, homosexuality, and it's legal, marriage is legal, blah, 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 blah. And now they want to cram it down our throats. Well, you've been swallowing fornication whole for decades. All these conservative churches, who sinned this week? Oh, we all did. It's like, oh, but not sin like that. It's like, well, gee. We got standards here. There's certain sins we don't tolerate, but we tolerate a whole lot of other ones. And one we totally tolerate are having fornicators in our midst. This is John, and here's his girlfriend, Susan. They live together, And have not repented of the uncleanness and fornication and lasciviousness which they have committed. Paul's great, he was going to bewail because he would find a bunch of fornicators. And that's something we think nothing of in the churches in America. They hardly think about it. Oh, well, we frown on premarital sex. Well, Paul bewailed it. Paul bewailed it. That they should not repent of such things. Just out, People do, you can still be a good Christian and be a fornicator. It's no wonder now it's like, oh, it's proceeded from, you mean it went on from there? Oh. Because they didn't teach righteousness from the beginning. And I guess you could say, like, well, Paul, no, there's a lot of churches that teach fidelity and try to teach purity. And maybe there is. Maybe I'm off on that. I don't know. I guess I've run into a lot of couples, and it's like, we're going to church, and it's like, a couple of those did eventually get married, which to me is repentance. It's good. Like say you're fornicating, and you say, this is wrong. We should be married, and then they get married. That's that makes it all. That doesn't make the former all right, but it makes it right in the end. That's good remedy and repentance. I mean, or to just stop is another way to remedy it. It's like not everyone. I've tried to tell people, they were fornicating with people that they shouldn't marry, and therefore they should stop fornicating with them and not have anything to do with them. You know what I mean? It's not a question of like, oh, I fornicate with them, now I must marry them. That's not true. In the Old Testament, that was true of if a man lay with a virgin, he was forced to marry her, right? And I get that. But when it comes to otherwise, you're not obligated to marry someone just because you have, especially if they aren't a virgin and you aren't a virgin, you're just fornicators. You don't have to marry them. This may not be a good idea. Because once you get married, you're not supposed to depart. Especially as a Christian. As two Christians, absolutely you shouldn't divorce. You should work it out. Because with God can make a way to make all things right. So fornication, lasciviousness. Lasciviousness is all kinds of lust. Let's see it's probably, how much do I bet the Greek word means licentiousness? I'm just guessing, but let's see. Yeah, I knew this was coming. Aselgia. Selgia, I think, means something like self-control or whatever. That's why they say licentiousness. Because licentiousness means taking license. To do things you shouldn't do. Wanton. I assume wanton means you do whatever you want or whatever. So it's funny, lasciviousness and licentiousness. They're big, long L words, but they mean different things. But they're similar context, aren't they? Lasciviousness usually means some sort of like me think of like a dirty old man or pervert. That's lasciviousness. But licentiousness and wantonness, you can wantonly, do a lot of things. It doesn't have to be sexual, right? Wantonness can refer to something, whereas lasciviousness is specifically, there's no other, in English, there's no other meaning behind lasciviousness that I'm aware of other than some sort of sexually, over-sexualized, basically. And whereas licentiousness can mean that, and it can mean a lot of other things also. And so I think he's trying to cover a lot more ground, just like he does with uncleanness, which is, I'm almost certain that's going to be a word that means not clean. Yeah, akatharsia. Catharsia. Catharsia is one of the words for holy or pure. It's where we get the name Catherine. It's from Greek. It means like we have the English, we have chastity, Catherine means purity. So, they have committed, they've done this things they haven't repented. Okay, let's move on. And, when I started this morning, I looked this over and I thought, we'll finish 2 Corinthians today. But, as I look, I think not. Oh, well. I don't know. I'm sort of wary of not finishing it because then we'll have a short thing. But then, I don't know. We can have a short study, I guess. Or maybe I'll prepare something else. God knows I can stretch it. I can do a review. Chapter 13, verse 1. This is the third time I am coming to you. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every word be established. In a sense, I'm coming to observe you for the third time. And so, in a sense, like, I'm going to formulate my full opinion of you by this third witness. I'm going to come and see what's going on. I had first impression, second impression, third impression. So, in a sense of like, yeah, it usually means different people, right? But in this sense, it makes sense, like, as far as impressions. They say first impressions are sort of like, it's good to make a good first impression. Because if you make a bad first impression, you're unlikely to get a second one. Whereas you get to make a good first impression, you'll get a second chance, perhaps. You're more likely to get a second chance, and you'll be going into a second chance with them already having a positive opinion of you. But after that you blow the second one, then you blow the third one, well, then they may say, the first impression was deceit. I told you before, and foretell you, as if I were present the second time. Wish this fly would just settle down. Just land on my head or something. I told you before and foretell you as if I were present the second time. As if this is back then when I was there the second time? I told you that, and I'm basically, I want to remind you of something I said before. And being absent now, I write to them which heretofore have sinned, and to all other, that if I come again, I will not spare. Like if I come, and this is still going on, I'm not going to spare. It's an interesting thing. Well, you should always forgive everything and no matter what. If a brother be overtaken in fault, restore such a one in the spirit of me. And there's on some level where there is a point where it's like your sins, it's like, well, you know what? It's not necessarily you can't be saved. But it's like, I can't put up with you. Meaning me enduring you is not doing any good and is probably doing bad. You know what I mean? Or it's so harmful that there's, like there's no way, marriage is one of those situations where it's like you're actually not, you have a little tighter binding that you have to put up with more because you're supposed to try to work it. I never heard, there's things he says about brothers that he doesn't allow. Like you can have an unbelieving spouse and you have to stay married to them unless they desire themselves to leave. And they actually want to leave. But if you be a fornicator, you don't keep company with him. Obviously, if he rejects the faith and is an unbeliever? Well, same thing, right? But if he happens to be your husband or wife, you don't get the same options. Interesting. But he will not spare. He's not going to kill him, but he's going to be probably throw them out. Because that's about all you can do, really. So what is he going to do? Beat them up? We don't do that. Give them a severe tongue lashing. Ooh, you bad boy. That's not severe enough. It's not going to have the impact. In marriage, you have a different thing is because in marriage, even if someone's an unbeliever, if they want to stay, it must mean they still are bound with affection and love towards the other person. And that can provide a very strong motivation to do better, and so it's possible to recover from that. Whereas in the church, if they do have a strong bond of affection, it may actually do them good. Because they can be restored. But at some point, they must be punished through removing from the fellowship. Not just for being a fornicator, not just for being caught in fornication. They're given the chance to repent, means cut it out, stop, right? It's like, oh, you're a fornicator, you're out. No, stop. And they refuse. Paul says, if I come the third time and find it still going on, I will not spare. Since you seek a proof of Christ speaking in me, which you word is not weak, but is mighty in you. And I think that's actually referring to verse 2, because he's saying, like, I will not spare. You want proof of Christ speaking in me? Because of the meekness with which he came, they want him to speak with authority. We only wish Paul would be more authoritative. Really? You want me to be more authoritative? You want me to take authority over you and to start telling you people who you need to get rid of? And be a harsh, be harsh. It's like, I can do that. I have authority in Christ. Those who are in Christ will obey me. You know what I mean? Since you seek proof of Christ speaking in me, which to you word is not weak, but is mighty in you. I mean, he doesn't buy into this weakness argument, about his speech because of his meekness, and meekness is not weakness. It takes a lot of self-control to be meek among a bunch of people who are self-important and, puffed up and all these things. There's a lot of negativity around a lot of people, and to meekly go among them and be humble, to be humble before the proud. I endured that call where someone was exceedingly unpleasant. I told the story when I went to, I'm not going to tell it again, but I went to church, and someone was behaving very rudely towards me. And I just accepted it. And in fact, I used it without answering again, without being rude in return. I just meekly accepted their judgment. It was concerning my appearance. And used that even to speak from. Because, it was in my power. And so I decided I'm not here to rebuke anybody. I'm here to encourage. And like one person is almost ruined my day, but the Lord showed me the way through it. For though he was crucified in weakness, yet he lived by the power of God. For we are weak, we also are weak in him, but we shall live with him by the power of God towards you. Again, and when we talk about weakness, weakness. He was crucified through weakness. And he means this in a certain sense, that he's sort of giving into if meekness is weakness, then Christ was crucified through weakness. Though, when you think about the ordeal he went through, it wasn't something a weak man could endure. You know what I mean? Certainly not willingly. If there be another way, let this cup pass from me. But if it be thy will, then so be it. And he willingly went to the cross. You know what I mean? He did not wish it, but he assented to the Father's will. Who would wish such a thing? But he suffered it to be so. He did, he exhibited an outward weakness. As he said, don't you know that if I asked my Father, he said this to his disciples, he would send 12 legions of angels. I think that was in Luke, when they were fighting to prevent him from being taken prisoner. And so it was distressing to his disciples because it was like he appeared weak. he could show all these signs. They believed he was the Messiah. And now the government's just coming in and taking him and crucifying him. How weak is that? When he's supposed to be Lord of heaven and earth. You know? And so he allowed himself to be weak and to meekly be crucified. And so also we take on that same spirit, that we endure things. Like, it'd be a lot stronger to just punch someone in the face. You know, someone insults me, I punch him in the face. I can show power and strength. I can, havoc could be wrecked. Someone, like, crosses me. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm not a small or a weak person, just in the flesh. You can hurt people and retaliate for the slight. You know, someone slights me, I slice them. You know, pounding for minor insults. I mean, that could be a kind of strength, right? But he meekly accepted it, meaning he did not use the power he had, but suffered himself to appear weak. Yet by the power of God, he rose from the dead, which is the most powerful thing you could do. Since no man has, I don't have the power to just get up from death. I've had a few concussions in my life and gotten up from them again. Broke a foot, got up from that, hobbled around. That's not so. I mean, people, it's funny. It's people like, oh, wow, you're up and around. It's not a big deal. Jesus was dead. And he got up from that. So we also, in Christ, sometimes exhibit this weakness. We will suffer things to be. We will suffer slights to our character. We will suffer insults to our ministry. We will suffer many things when we think it is wise to do so. But also we have the power and the life in us to use God's power and authority as needed, whenever the Lord wills it. We can take up power. Paul's willing to take up power and cast out fornicators, drive the sinners out of the church. Well, we can do that. Examine yourselves, whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves how that Jesus Christ is in you, except ye be reprobates. It's funny, for the first time ever, I thought, and maybe I'll do this in the future, I should write down the timestamp of where when I get to a verse, I should write down the time. And then I could put that all in the description, and then people could see, if they want to skip to a verse and see what we have to say about it. So maybe I'm not going to do that today, but I think in the next book I'm going to start keeping a little piece of paper. And we're going to, when we talk about the verses, examine yourselves whether you be in the faith, prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves how that Jesus Christ is in you, except you be reprobates. Reprobate means rejected. Jesus Christ is in you, unless you're a reject. Which means in the context of the church, that means a fake Christian. So he's saying, look at yourself. Examine yourself. Are you in the faith? Am I in the faith? Prove yourselves. Prove your own selves. Don't wait for me to come around and do it. Prove yourself. This is something that you should do on an ongoing basis. Will not question your salvation, all that stuff. But where are you? Let's say you're in the faith. Where are you in the faith? Where are you in your walk? Where is your progress? Where are you now relative to where you were before? I mean, it starts off, am I in the faith? Am I even in this thing? You know what I mean? Is this something that's important to me? Is this part of my life? Is this where I am? Am I a Christian even? Or am I so, worldly minded I'm no earthly good? Or so earthly minded I'm no heavenly good? I'm so no good to God's kingdom because I'm so caught up in the things of the earth. I'm so caught up in earthly things that I have no mind for God's kingdom. Don't you know yourself? Don't you know this of yourself, that Christ is in you? Unless you're an absolute reject. Even if you're like the least believer that has only you just started believing and you don't have much in the faith, you don't know what you're doing, you're just confused. Right? Christ is in you. That's why we say we receive the Lord, that he may enter into us, and that he may possess us, and that show us the way and teach us, and that he might cause us to conform to his image. But I trust that ye shall know that we are not reprobates. I trust we're not rejected. We are at least not that. If we be not the greatest apostles you've ever heard of, we are at least not reprobates. Or at least you're going to know it when I come. Now I pray to God that you do no evil. Not that we should appear approved, but that ye should do that which is honest, though we be as reprobates. Okay. I pray to God that you do no evil. That may mean in the sense of harm. Because again, sin is different than evil. Like God, or iniquity. God doesn't do iniquity and sin, but God does things that people will regard as evil. Like sending forth an angel to loose the evil angels bound in the river Euphrates, which are to slay a third part of men. A third part of men being slain could be regarded as an evil relative to those people being slain. Relative, the lake of fire is an evil that comes upon the wicked. God brings evil upon the wicked. Now God himself is good. Evil is when good is taken away, or when, that evil is a relative, subjective concept. It does not exist in and of itself. And people say evil exists. It's like, well, yes, as a concept it exists, but it does not, it is only a relative thing. Like, when someone loses their legs, I've used this analogy, we think, oh, what a horrible thing. That's an evil that's come upon them. That's part of the evil that's in the world, is people are born unhealthy, or they're injured. Some evil has befallen him, and he has lost his ability to this or that. But if we all lived on a planet where no one had legs, we would think nothing of it. We would think, well, that's how people are. People don't have legs. Otherwise, see, the fact that people don't have wings could be considered an evil, but it's not, because people don't have wings. It's not evil that we don't have wings. Nobody says, it's really evil we don't have wings. Why is God so mean to us? Wings are not necessary. Neither are legs, neither is life. So evil is only a subjective thing that we regard. That's why God brings evil upon the wicked, because that's how the wicked experience it, as evil come upon them, ruining their goodness. So when he says, do no evil, I assume he means it in terms of harm. Let me just correctly check that. Time is quickly running out. 7. Oh boy. We have nothing left for tomorrow. Do no evil. Kakos, bad, evil. Okay, yeah. But it might be in the sense of evil is sent as, in the Hebrew I remember, meant as breaking up that which is good. And he says, I don't want you to do these. I'm not telling you this so that we could appear approved. You know what I mean? I don't want you to be good so that I can look good. But that you should do that which is honest, even if we appear to be as reprobates. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it doesn't, I'm not concerned about my appearance, whether I appear approved or rejected. I mean, it's because I care about the work. He genuinely cared about how they behaved, not because of how it would reflect on him, even though he has boasted concerning them quite a bit. He's boasted concerning them, but that's not why he wants them not to do evil. But because doing things which are honest. What does honest mean in this context? Because it's like, it could mean truthful, but it also might mean right. That means good, beautiful, or good. Kalos. Kalos is that which is beautiful or good. Kakos, that which is bad. Kakos and kalos. So whether we appear to be reprobates or appear to be approved is not the issue. It's that you should do that which is honest, beautiful, appropriate. Often beautiful means appropriate, well-ordered, correct. For we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. That's a verse, ultimately, yeah, I'm not going to there's no way I'm going to rush through. We're at an hour. I'm not going to rush through the last few verses. So I'm going to save 8 for tomorrow, because I could definitely talk about 8. And we will wrap up 2 Corinthians tomorrow. And we'll stop at verse 7. Okay, thanks for joining me in this study. I look forward to studying with you again tomorrow. Oh, I lost my music. There we go.
Also I heard the voice of the Lord saying,
Whom shall I send? And who